Welcome to the Wis Mama Bear Podcast, Episode 14. I'm your host, Sarah Yacoub. Today's topic, the Republican COVID plan. Bloomberg recently published the results of a household pulse survey conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau. Over 41% of adults in Wisconsin are living in households not current on rent or mortgage, where eviction or foreclosure within the next 2 months is either somewhat or very likely. Our neighbors in Minnesota, for reference, clocked in at about 25% of adults so situated. As of 2 p.m. December 1st, 2020, a new record of 107 COVID deaths in Wisconsin got reported on a single day. 277 more have been hospitalized. 6,414 people tested negative. 4,078, or roughly 40%, tested positive for COVID-19 on December 1st. As we learn more from the virus, the realities of long-term harm are becoming more and more clear. According to Dr. Eric Feigelding, epidemiologist, health economist, and doctor at Harvard Medical School, 10 to 35% of those who contract the virus suffer persistent symptoms, mostly neurological. Those symptoms include problems with their autonomic nervous system, problems sleeping, pain, dizziness, and cognitive difficulties. 1/3 reported memory problems after hospitalization. 2/3 left the hospital unable to manage daily activities. Patients with mental health conditions are now facing 3 times longer hospitalization stays after contracting COVID. To date, it's been over 7 months since the Republican legislature has gone into session. Despite continuing to collect a full-time salary for full-time work not done, as of November 19, 2020, Republican legislators acknowledged having no plan at all to lead us out of the disaster that is COVID-19. Governor Evers and legislative Democrats have been working tirelessly on plans, policies, potential legislation to limit the cost of this virus to our health and economy. Unfortunately, Republicans control the calendar, and they have proven to be more interested in lawsuits to shut it all down than to come to the table and even begin to work through the problems facing us all. As of December 1st, 2020, after 232 days of inaction, 416,000 Wisconsinites infected with the virus and 3,623 deaths. After constant obstruction of Governor Evers with taxpayer-paid lawsuits, Assembly Republicans unveiled their plan. Hooray! Right? I mean, they went to work. That's a step in the right direction, right? Turns out, not hooray. Let's look at what their plans are and do. The plans give the Legislative Budget Committee complete power over all future COVID funding from the federal government and complete control over how the state distributes the vaccine. In December of 2019, last winter, $3.7 million was allocated for those who are homeless in Wisconsin. Governor Evers called for the Republican-controlled Joint Finance Committee to convene a special meeting to disperse those funds. Republicans, including our own Shannon Zimmerman, refused. It was a cold winter with too many individuals, families, and children in need. Governor Evers convened that legislative session. Republican legislators didn't show up. Homeless in Wisconsin, those individuals, families, children fighting to survive a cold winter, got no relief. I wonder how many babies and pregnant women were homeless last winter. Republican legislators have access to those statistics, and evidently they didn't care enough, or at least enough to get off their rear ends and actually do the work to release funds. As long as they pay lip service to valuing life, everything is all good, right? The same people who took a lazy and callous approach to relief for our homeless population want to control all federal COVID funding. The same people whose reckless leadership spent the last 6 months driving us off a COVID cliff and refusing to go to work now want to control all of the COVID relief. The same people who gave tax breaks to the handful of the richest people in Wisconsin off of the backs of working families now want to control who gets the vaccine. That's cute. No. What else does this Republican plan do? While it fails to address a statewide mask mandate, it bans local control. It bans the ability of communities to take measures to preserve their health and safety. The Republican plan requires state government employees to physically return to work as of January 31st, 2021, regardless of whether it is safe for them to do so. They force teachers to teach from school unless they present a doctor's note. So now we're treating our educators like dishonest or irresponsible children who cannot be trusted. I shake my head. Is that the worst of it? Of course not. What happens to a school district that does not comply with the unreasonable demands of the Republican legislature? Our public schools lose state funding. What does that mean? It means public schools are put in the impossible position of choosing between the health and safety of everyone involved or placating our power and control legislators who will cut their funding if our public schools dare disobey. Schools can switch to virtual, but only with a 2/3 vote of the school board, and only for 14-day increments. Without another 2/3 vote from that board, it's back to school or lose your funding. Is that the worst of it? Are school boards free to vote based on the health and safety of those involved? No. School boards who vote to go virtual for the health and safety of teachers and students would have to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars out of their already stressed resources. What about businesses? In the spirit of cruel joke ironies of the Wisconsin Republican Party, they are proposing that no rules apply to any business unless it applies to every single business. So much for believing in the free market. Let's say you're a reasonable business owner. You've taken precautions to keep your employees and customers safe and your business open. The business down the street believes businesses like Disney, Nike, the airline industry, and Major League Baseball all tanked their existence in furtherance of tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. Side note, if Democrats could pull off a hoax of that magnitude, I promise you, we would just win elections. Anyway, that business down the street recklessly packs people in, no masks, no social distancing, no regard for the uncontrolled spread of this virus. Republican legislators like Shannon Zimmerman and Rob Staffholt support legislation that would make all businesses go down to be able to address the one hurting the community. If you're worried about their electability, it'll be okay. Enough money and people to spread lies come election time, lies about them being good and their opponent being bad. And no biggie. They've survived worse. There really are no words to capture the absurdity. Is that the end of it? Is that the worst it gets? No. They're also proposing legislation that will line the pockets of the many Republican legislators who own bars. Shannon Zimmerman, once again, wants legislation that makes him a millionaire richer. Anything for the homelessness crisis that's scheduled to hit in the dead of winter? No. Anything to expand access to health care for tens of thousands of Wisconsinites? No. The federal government literally has money available to Wisconsin to provide relief and to give people access to health care. And these corrupt, self-serving fat cats won't take it. The heart of the argument has always been along the lines of Republican legislators being too prideful to stop and ask for directions. They don't want to ask for help. We can't join the other 39 states who took the Medicaid expansion because, according to Wisconsin Republicans, that would make Wisconsin a welfare state. By that twisted logic, accepting federal COVID relief would make us a welfare state too. But who needs logical consistency when we have identity politics? Do legislative Republicans offer any meaningful relief for working families? No. There's a reason anti-labor groups spend so much to keep their rubber stamps in office. They profit off of or survive a crisis off of the backs of the rest of us, hard-working, middle-class families working hard to survive. I used to wonder if these politicians are just so disconnected from working families that they really just don't know. But after all their nice-sounding but very misleading propaganda of the last election cycle, I don't wonder anymore. They know enough to talk about doing right by the people come election time, so they know enough to do right by the people once elected. The fact that they don't is among the reasons this podcast exists. Anyone else tired of the nonsense? I am. Episode 15 tomorrow. See you there.